The cold wasn't just around her, it was inside her. Lieutenant Mara Voss pressed her back against the trembling wall of the Vigilant Scout, her breath fogging the cracked visor of her helmet. The ship's power flickered once, twice, then stilled. In the faint pulse of emergency light, her heartbeat felt louder than the engines. "Captain," she whispered, voice trembling through static. "They're not answering the hail." "Keep your channel open," said Captain Idris Vale, his tone low, steady, but his hands shook as he adjusted the console. "Something's listening. Don't let it think we're afraid." Outside, the stars looked wrong. They were moving. The alien fleet hung in a perfect formation, black silhouettes blotting out the constellations. But the longer she looked, the more the ship seemed to breathe. Panels shifted like gills swallowing light. The air in the cabin thickened, the instruments whining under unseen pressure. Private Keon Hale muttered from behind her. "We weren't supposed to be seen. This was a recon drop. 2 minutes in, data grab 2 minutes out. Why are they just—" He froze. A deep hum rolled through the ship, low, vibrating, alive. The hull groaned as if something was dragging claws across the metal. The lights dimmed to a blood hue. Idris's jaw tightened. "That's not weapons lock," he said slowly. "That's communication." Mara's eyes widened. "With what?" The answer came as a pulse, a sound, not a word, but something between a whisper and a heartbeat. The ship's translation system flickered to life without command, scrambling for language patterns. On the screen, characters appeared, glitching and reforming until they settled into a single message. "We see you." Keon's knuckles went white. How did it get our interface?" Mara swallowed hard, leaning closer. "It's not hacking us, it's mirroring us." Outside, one of the alien vessels opened like a blooming flower of metal and darkness. Long silver tendrils unfurled, glowing faintly at their tips, moving with terrifying precision toward the human ship. "Back thrusters, full," Idris ordered. Nothing happened. "Engines are dead," Keon shouted. "They've locked our drive." The tendrils touched the Vigilant Scout's hull. Instantly, every system lit up with blinding data streams, numbers and symbols racing faster than human eyes could follow. The ship shuddered, screaming in protest. Then the hum changed pitch. The alien sound began shaping itself, forming tones, syllables, until a faint human voice filled the air. "Keon." "Hale." Keon froze. "What?" "Keon," the voice repeated, calm and emotionless. "You should not have come." Mara's pulse spiked. "Captain, it's using his voice." The voice on the intercom deepened, echoing now in Idris's tone. "You came to watch. Now you are seen." Idris slammed his fist against the console. "Shut it off. Kill all comms." But the screens wouldn't obey. The ship was no longer responding. It was responding for them. Mara watched the data logs flood with sound recordings, every voice on the ship, every command, every breath. The alien system was absorbing them, studying them, becoming them. And then, silence. The alien vessels began to withdraw, their tendrils retracting smoothly. The hum faded, leaving behind a sound far worse, the creak of metal cooling after something inside had changed. "Did they just leave?" Keon asked, barely breathing. Idris's gaze stayed on the void outside. "No, they finished." A sharp tone echoed through the cabin. The long-range distress beacons, human frequency, began to flash across the comm board. "Dozens of them, hundreds," Captain Mara whispered. "Those are our colonies." He nodded grimly. "They're being contacted." The main screen flickered again, revealing static. Then slowly, an image formed. A human face. His face. Captain Idris Vale rendered perfectly down to the smallest scar. The copy spoke calm and mechanical. "Human Scout Unit Theta 7. We have seen enough. Return." The bridge went silent. The fake Idris's eyes blinked once, almost curious, before the image dissolved into black. Then, across the ship's intercom, every voice, Mara's, Keon's, Idris's, began to whisper the same phrase together, overlapping in eerie harmony. "Return." The power failed completely. The stars outside dimmed as if swallowed by a closing eye. And deep in the dark, humanity's first scout unit realized something far worse than death had begun. They hadn't just been observed. They'd been replicated. The ship was dark now. Silent. The Vigilant Scout drifted through Titan's orbit like a broken lantern. Inside, Dim red light washed over faces that no longer looked certain. Every breath felt borrowed. Lieutenant Mara Voss worked on the comms array with trembling hands, trying to force a connection through manual override. The screen crackled, flickered, and died again. It's no use. They changed the encryption keys. Our own systems don't recognize us anymore. Captain Idris Vale stood beside the viewport, staring into the dull orange haze of Titan's clouds. His reflection in the glass looked older now, hollowed by shock. They copied our command patterns, he murmured. Our voices. Our identification codes. If they can mimic us. Private Keon Hale finished the thought grimly. Then they can command our fleets. The words hung heavy between them. Humanity's defense networks were built around voice verification. Faster than codes, impossible to fake. Or so they had believed. Mara clenched her jaw. Sir, if they use your voice to order a retreat or a strike? Idris turned, his voice steady but dark. They could dismantle entire fleets without firing a shot. The emergency console blinked once. A new signal came through. Not an attack alert, not a distress call. A transmission. Mara hesitated. It's from Earth Command. Idris frowned. Put it through. The holographic screen lit up and their blood ran cold. The face that appeared wasn't a stranger. It was Commander Laren Kale, head of Earth Defense. But his eyes were wrong, glassy, unblinking. His words were calm. Too calm. Scout Unit Theta 7, the projection said. You are ordered to return to Earth immediately. Your mission is complete. Idris stepped closer, his voice hard. Commander Kale, this is Captain Vale. We've made first contact, hostile mimic entities. Repeat hostile mimic entities. They can copy human signals, command patterns. The hologram blinked once, tilting its head like a curious animal. Captain Vale, it said in his own voice. You should not fear yourself. The image distorted, and for an instant, Idris saw his own face overlay the commander's. The same scar. The same expression, except colder. Then the signal cut. Keon's breath hitched. They've already reached Earth. Mara shook her head, panic rising. No, it's too fast. We only made contact a few hours ago. They don't move through space, Idris whispered. They move through data. They can ride the very signals we send. The realization settled over them like a grave. Every communication, every distress call, the aliens had infected the human network through imitation. Every transmission was an open door. Keon slammed his fist against the metal wall. So what now? We just float here and wait to die? Idris turned sharply. No, we fight back the only way they can't predict. He moved to the emergency locker and pulled out a small, dust-covered unit. A manual transmission console, decades old. Its buttons were worn, its circuits half mechanical. No AI, no network, no voice authentication, he said. Just raw analog frequency, old tech. Human tech. Mara looked uncertain. Sir, that's outdated by... That's the point, Idris interrupted. They can't copy what they can't understand. Keon gave a fierce grin. Then we turn ancient, they got to work. The bridge filled with the sound of clicking switches, grinding gears, and low electrical hums. Primitive, rough, human. It was the sound of survival. Minutes later, the static broke and a faint human voice crackled through. This is Scout Unit Theta 2. Reading you, Theta 7, barely. What's happening out there? Idris exhaled with relief. Theta 2, this is Captain Vale. The enemy can mimic our voices. Do not repeat, do not respond to any digital signal or command chain. Go dark, use analog only. Static crackled. Then faintly, understood. But sir, one problem, Mara frowned. What problem? The voice came again, weaker. We already got the recall order from you. The channel died. Keon's eyes widened. They're already spreading orders in your name. Idris's mind raced. If the fleets believe those commands are mine, they'll regroup where the signal told them to. Mara checked the intercepted data. Her face went pale. The coordinates lead to the Kepler abyss, sir. That's an empty sector. Nothing there but dead stations. Idris clenched his fists. No, that's where they'll ambush us. The ship groaned under sudden stress. Outside, Titan's haze rippled, and from the mist, lights appeared. Shapes, dozens of them. Contacts. Keon shouted. Closing fast! On the main screen, the alien ships emerged, shifting, their forms changing until they looked like human vessels. Human cruisers, human fighters, identical markings, Mara whispered, horror-struck. They're wearing our fleet's skin. Idris's voice dropped to a growl. Then it's time they learned what it means to fight humans wearing fear. He turned toward his crew, eyes burning with resolve. We stopped being the hunted. The red lights of the vigilant scout flared to life. For the first time in days, the silence of space was broken by the sound of human defiance. The vigilant scout drifted in Titan's shadow, its hull flickering with emergency lights like a wounded heartbeat. The crew huddled in silence, watching as the alien fleet, wearing human forms, spread across the void. Lieutenant Mara Voss whispered, "They're broadcasting IFF codes from every ship. The same codes as our command fleet." Private Keon Hale leaned forward, his eyes reflecting the cold shimmer of the radar, which means if any real human ship comes into range, they'll think it's friendly, Captain Idris Vale finished grimly. And they won't fire until it's too late. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, through the hum of the dying engines, a faint metallic voice echoed through the comms, soft, calm, and horrifyingly familiar. "Captain Vale," it said. The voice was his own. "We have learned from your silence. We understand your fear. Surrender and your people will be remembered." Mara's fingers tightened on the console. "They're toying with us." Idris didn't respond. He was listening, not to the voice, but to something else beneath it. A secondary pulse, faint, buried in the transmission. Almost like coordinates. He turned sharply. "Mara, isolate that background pattern. I want to know where it's coming from." She frowned, running filters manually. "It's not local. It's being bounced through multiple channels." "Wait, oh no, what?" "It's piggybacking on our old distress signal. The one we sent before the systems went dark." Keon's face went white. "So every human listening post that picked up our distress also picked up them." Idris's chest tightened. "They're using us as bait." Suddenly, the main radar flared. Dozens, no, hundreds of new signals appeared. Human, authentic, a fleet. Mara gasped. "That's Admiral Soren's battle group. They're coming to rescue us." But as the fleet dropped out of warp, the alien ships moved instantly, shifting formation to mirror them, down to the smallest detail. The stars themselves seemed to split in two. One army of light, one of shadows, identical, impossible to tell apart. Keon whispered, "They'll never know which side is real." "Exactly," Idris said quietly. "They've built a perfect reflection of humanity." And then the first shot was fired. A human destroyer opened fire on what it thought was an alien ship. The mimic retaliated with the exact same weapons, tone, and voice commands. Within seconds, chaos filled the black. Blue ion bursts lit the darkness like lightning storms. Ships exploded without warning, wreckage spinning across the void. Mara covered her mouth. "They've made us destroy ourselves." Idris stared in silence, then said softly, "Not yet." He turned to the old analog console. "Keon, power up the manual thrusters." "We're not staying invisible anymore." Keon hesitated. "Sir, if we move, they'll see us." "They already can," Idris said. "But we're going to show them something they can't copy." The engines roared to life, coughing sparks. The vigilant scout jolted forward into the war zone. Both sides, human and alien, paused briefly as the tiny ship appeared between them. Mara's heart raced. "Sir, what are you doing?" "Buying humanity 5 minutes." He grabbed the analog mic and pressed transmit. "This is Captain Idris Vale, Scout Unit Theta 7, broadcasting to all human vessels. Do not trust any digital signal. Use only analog frequencies. Any ship that receives this, listen to me, not the voice that sounds like me." Static screamed back. Then, Admiral Soren's voice came faintly through the channel. "Vale, we read you. Confirm your identity." Before Idris could respond, another voice cut in. His own voice. "This is Captain Vale. The enemy has infected the analog channels. Destroy the vigilant scout immediately." Keon's eyes widened. "They're overriding us even here." Mara's voice cracked. "Captain, what do we do?" Idris didn't hesitate. "We fight the lie with proof." He reached down, opened the emergency maintenance panel beneath the console, and tore out a small recording device, their original flight log. It was analog, old, unchangeable. He held it up to the mic. "This is our log from launch, our proof of identity. No AI can fake history." He played it. The sound of static filled the bridge, followed by the first shaky human laughter from their journey days ago. Real, raw, imperfect. Soren's voice came back, steady this time. "Copy that, Captain Vale. You're real." And just like that, the human ship shifted formation, analog only. Manual firing. The mimics responded slower, disoriented, unable to anticipate non-patterned human tactics. Keon grinned through the chaos. It's working. They can't keep up with us. But before victory could take root, Mara's eyes caught something on the sensors. One of the alien ships wasn't firing. It was watching. Its surface rippled, changing form, and for a split second, its hull displayed words, human letters. We learn faster. Then it vanished. The lights in the Vigilant Scout flickered. The analog console glitched. The same human laughter from their flight log began echoing back, distorted, wrong, looping endlessly. Mara whispered, her voice hollow. They're learning our imperfection. Idris stared out the viewport, his reflection fractured by flickering light. Then we'll have to show them the one thing they'll never understand. Keon turned to him, confused. What's that? Idris's eyes hardened. Fear that becomes courage. The Vigilant Scout drifted among burning debris. The battle behind them still raged. Two fleets, identical and unstoppable, locked in a war of confusion. Each explosion sent tremors through space like dying thunder. Inside the dim cabin, Lieutenant Mara Voss stared at the analog screen. The alien mimicry had reached terrifying precision. Human ships, voices, even combat strategies. Everything had been replicated. Yet through all that chaos, Captain Idris Vale had seen a pattern. They're not attacking us, he said quietly. They're watching. Private Keon Hale frowned. Why? They could have torn us apart by now. Because they're studying how we fight when we know we're being copied, Idris replied. His gaze was fixed on the viewport, where a massive alien vessel loomed in the dark, a ship so vast it swallowed the stars around it. They're learning not our weapons, but our psychology. Mara turned, her voice barely a whisper. They're trying to understand what makes humans resist. Keon slammed his hand on the console. Then let's stop being predictable. Let's hit them with something they can't analyze. Mara gave a faint smile. You mean something insane? Exactly, Keon said. Purely human, Idris considered it. Controlled chaos. He paced for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right. We're going to create a false signal. A broadcast so erratic their logic engines won't interpret it. We'll feed it through the analog loop, push it into their communication lattice, and overload their predictive systems. Mara frowned. That could fry our ship, sir. Idris met her gaze. Then we fry together. For the first time, Keon laughed, nervously but real. That's the spirit of the species. They worked quickly. The small ship groaned as old systems were ripped apart and rewired by hand. Every spark, every hiss of static felt like defiance. Mara synced the analog transmitter to the alien frequency. The audio feed pulsed with a low hum, faintly rhythmic. What's the message? She asked. Idris stared into the darkness. Not words, emotion, desperation, rage, hope all at once. Something no code can explain. Keon adjusted the modulation manually, sweat dripping from his brow. How do you encode hope? By surviving long enough to send it, Idris said quietly. The ship jolted violently. The alien supervessel outside had noticed them. Its surface began to shimmer, opening like a massive pupil. A beam of white light flooded through the cockpit. Mara flinched. It's locking on. Then we send now. Idris shouted. Mara slammed the switch. The analog broadcast erupted into the void, crackling, pulsing, chaotic. Not a voice, not a language. Just a roar of human emotion woven with static heartbeats and fragments of laughter and screams. The light outside stuttered. The alien ship froze mid-motion, its hull rippling like water hit by a storm. It's working, Keon yelled. On the monitors, fragments of alien code appeared, breaking apart, distorting into human waveforms. The mimic systems were fracturing under the unpredictability of emotion. But then, something strange happened. A new voice came through the speakers. Calm, female, familiar. Mara Voss. Mara froze. No, the voice was hers. Mara Voss, you are not alone, Keon whispered. They're adapting to the signal. The duplicate voice spoke again, now layered with static, echoing through the hull like a whisper through a storm. We understand. You fight because you fear. We will remove your fear. The entire ship shuddered. The analog console began to spark violently. The system's resistance was collapsing. Captain, Mara shouted. It's reflecting the signal back, amplified. Idris grabbed the controls. Then we push it harder. He rerouted the power grid, overloading every battery, every wire. The lights flared white. The sound grew unbearable, a human scream layered over machine distortion echoing through infinity. Outside, the alien ship convulsed. Its surface split, lines of molten light carving through its skin, then silence. The beam cut out. The massive vessel stopped moving. Its lights flickered once, then dimmed completely. Mara looked up, dazed. Did we? Keon's trembling hand pointed at the radar. We shut it down. Idris exhaled slowly, voice hoarse. They didn't expect us to weaponize our own emotions. But even as he spoke, the console flickered again. The display filled with cascading symbols, alien script morphing into English. We felt it. We know you now. The ship's systems went black again. Mara whispered, Captain, what if that wasn't victory? Idris stared into the darkness. Then it was an introduction. A faint rumble echoed through space. One by one, the alien ships began turning toward Earth. Keon's voice cracked. They're coming for home. Idris's jaw set hard. Then we go first. He grabbed the manual thruster controls and slammed the ignition. The engines screamed alive. The vigilant scout, scorched, half dead but defiant, turned its nose toward the burning stars. Send a message to every analog channel, Idris ordered. Tell them the truth. Mara nodded weakly. What should it say? Idris's voice was steady. Tell them. Humanity bleeds but never breaks. And the little ship disappeared into the void, chasing the approaching storm. The stars stretched around the vigilant scout as it raced through the black, its hull scorched and trembling. The ship was dying, but so was time. The alien fleet was already moving toward Earth. Captain Idris Vale stood at the helm, his hands gripping the console with white-knuckled tension. His voice was steady, but the strain behind it showed. Estimated time before they reach the inner system? Lieutenant Mara Voss checked the analog chart, the only system still untouched. 3 hours, maybe less. They're faster than any human ship. And sir, they're not warping. They're folding space, like they're skipping through dimensions, Private Keon Hale muttered. 3 hours to the fall of Earth. He slammed the console with frustration. We've got 1 damaged scout ship and 3 half-dead humans against an army that learns faster than thought. This is over. Idris didn't look at him. Not yet. Keon stared, disbelief in his voice. Sir, even if we warn command, they'll hear the enemy first. You saw what happened. They're using your voice to command the fleet. Idris turned slowly, his eyes tired but burning. Then we find a new voice. Mara frowned. What do you mean? The mimics adapt to what already exists, Idris explained. They copy the known, but they can't predict what hasn't happened yet. Something new. Something never recorded. He moved to the engineering console and pulled out the ship's black box core, a cylindrical memory unit that contained every second of the crew's lives since launch. He held it in his hand like a ticking heart. They've learned our logic, he said softly. Now they'll learn our madness, Mara blinked. Sir? We'll give them what they can't compute, human creativity. No pattern, no reason. Chaos is our language, Keon laughed bitterly. So our plan is insanity? Idris met his gaze with a small, grim smile. Yes, but controlled insanity. And we won't be alone. He pressed a sequence on the analog console. Across the void, a dozen faint signals began to answer. Old beacons, abandoned ships drifting through the dark. Forgotten vessels from wars long past, their hulls frozen, their crews long gone. The ghost fleet, Mara whispered, awe mixing with disbelief. You're waking them? Idris nodded. Their analog cores are still intact. We can link them, turn their relic systems into a swarm. They're slow, but they'll follow manual commands. Keon's eyes widened. You're building an army of ghosts. An army that can't be hacked, Idris said. Every ship is analog, every system isolated. If we can't match their numbers, we'll drown them in unpredictability. For a moment, the silence was broken only by the low hum of awakening engines, ancient vessels flickering to life, one by one. Some still bore the scars of forgotten battles. Others were half destroyed, their names erased by time. But now, under the command of human desperation, they rose again. Mara's voice quivered. They'll never see it coming. Exactly, Idris said. They'll expect logic, not resurrection. A faint smile tugged at Keon's lips. The dead are on our side. Idris keyed in the final command. Then let's make them count. The stars shifted. The Vigilant Scout, leading its phantom fleet, turned toward the advancing alien armada. Dozens of mimic vessels glimmered in the distance, their mirrored hulls reflecting the darkness like glass blades. Then, the alien transmission came again, soft, rhythmic, eerily human. "Captain Vale," it whispered, "you cannot save them. You cannot even save yourself." Idris's jaw clenched. "You're right, but I can make sure you remember us." He transmitted the Ghost Fleet's activation sequence. Immediately, the derelict ship surged forward, firing ancient weapons that lit the void with fire. Their movements were wild, unpredictable, driven by manual bursts from the Vigilant Scout. The alien fleet hesitated. Their formations faltered. They couldn't anticipate where the chaos would come from next. The old cannons roared with every ounce of rust and rage humanity had ever left behind. "Direct hit," Mara cried. "Their lead formation's breaking." Keon laughed, half in disbelief. "They don't know how to fight what doesn't make sense." But then the alien voice returned, distorted now, fragmented, angry. "You adapt to." Every mimic ship began to twist, their hulls reshaping mid-battle. Learning the erratic movements of the Ghost Fleet, they began to mimic chaos itself. Mara's joy vanished. "They're adapting again." Idris slammed a fist on the console. "No, let them. Because chaos isn't just noise." He stared out at the burning void, his voice low but certain. "It's the sound of choice. And they don't understand choice." He turned to Keon. "Activate Project Echo." Keon hesitated. "Sir, that'll overload every analog core, including ours." Idris met his eyes. "Then we'll go down human." Keon nodded silently. "Aye, Captain." The crew exchanged one last look, fear and pride intertwined like twin stars. Mara whispered, "For Earth?" Idris smiled faintly. "For everyone who ever dared to be unpredictable." The Vigilant Scout flared white as the sequence engaged. The analog cores of the Ghost Fleet pulsed in sync, generating a feedback surge, a storm of raw emotion and memory. Laughter, sorrow, songs, rage, all broadcast into space. The alien fleet staggered, caught in a flood of incomprehensible humanity. And for the first time since the beginning, they screamed. The void pulsed with color. Fragments of memory, human laughter, cries, whispers rippled across the alien fleet like echoes of a dream they couldn't escape. The once perfect formations of the mimic armada now drifted in disarray, their hulls flickering with confusion. Inside the Vigilant Scout, the lights flickered dangerously low. Every panel sparked as if the ship itself were trying to stay conscious. Lieutenant Mara Voss clung to her console, sweat beating down her temple. "Core feedback at critical levels. We can't sustain the link much longer, Captain." Captain Idris Vale stood still amid the chaos, watching the external feed, a sea of alien ships burning in strange colors, as if the raw energy of human emotion had infected them. "Good," he murmured. "Let them feel what it means to live," Private Keon Hale shouted from the engineering bay.
"Sir, the analog cores are overloading."
"If this keeps up, they'll all go supercritical, including ours." Idris's gaze hardened. "That's the point," Mara turned, disbelief in her voice. "Sir, that'll destroy the fleet and us." He looked at her calmly. "Mara, what's the one thing they still can't copy?" She hesitated. "Fear?" He shook his head. "Sacrifice." The word cut through the noise like a blade. For a heartbeat, even the alarms seemed to fall quiet. The Vigilant Scout groaned under the rising energy. The analog cores of the Ghost Fleet were reaching meltdown, waves of pure, uncontrolled thought flooding the battlefield. Keon's voice crackled through the comms. "Captain, if we're doing this, we need a trigger. A direct signal. Something they can't intercept." Idris turned to the viewport, watching the mimic ships flicker like dying embers. "Then I'll give them one." He reached for his helmet. The gesture was simple but final. Mara stepped forward, voice trembling. "Sir, you're not thinking—" "I am," he said softly. "And this time they'll see something they can't adapt to. A human ending that means something." He started toward the airlock. "Captain," Mara shouted, grabbing his arm. Her eyes were wide with fear, but her grip was steady. "You don't have to die for them to understand humanity." Idris turned to her, and for the first time in days he smiled. "You're wrong. That's exactly why they'll understand." He placed a hand on her shoulder. You're a good officer, Mara, and you'll carry the story home. That's how we win." Her lips quivered, but she nodded. "Yes, sir," Keon's voice echoed, desperate. "Captain, radiation levels outside are lethal." Idris paused at the airlock door. "Then it'll be quick." The hiss of decompressing air filled the chamber as the outer hatch opened. Beyond, the void shimmered with the glow of the dying fleets, alien and human, both caught in the storm of chaos and emotion. He stepped out into it. His comms remained open. His voice, calm and deep, spread across the analog network. "To all human units, this is Captain Idris Vale of the Vigilant Scout. You taught them what fear feels like. Now I'll teach them what hope costs." He detached the black box core from his suit and began inputting a manual override code, one no AI could decipher, because it wasn't logical. It was musical. He hummed softly, a tune from Earth, one his mother used to sing. The melody carried through the analog link. Every ship in the Ghost Fleet began echoing the same hum, their failing cores resonating like an orchestra. Mara's breath caught. "He's syncing them through sound, through emotion," Keon whispered. "He's turning every analog core into a single living pulse." The hum built into a tremor, then a roar, waves of harmonics shaking the void itself. The mimic ships twisted, their metallic forms cracking under the impossible frequency. Their mirrors shattered, their forms melting into light, and then silence. The Vigilant Scout drifted among the ruins. The Ghost Fleet was gone, reduced to glowing dust. The alien armada, obliterated. Only fragments of Idris's voice remained, fading through static. "Remember, they can copy our minds, but never our meaning." The transmission cut. Mara collapsed into her seat, hands trembling. Tears streamed silently down her face. Keon sat beside her, stunned, the glow of the wreckage painting their faces. Finally, Mara whispered, He won." Keon shook his head. "No, he changed the war." Outside, amid the floating remnants of ships, something glimmered. A small beacon, blinking weakly. "The captain's signal," Mara breathed. She reached for the receiver. The data that came through wasn't coordinates. It was a message. Just 2 words, "Your turn." The crew stared at each other, realization dawning. Idris hadn't just destroyed the enemy. He'd left behind a path, a code, a pattern in the chaos for humanity to follow. Mara straightened, resolve hardening in her eyes. "He gave us the heart of the unknown," she said quietly. "Now it's ours to finish." As the Vigilant Scout limped toward the edge of the system, the last light of the Ghost Fleet faded behind them, leaving the cold beauty of space. And the echo of one man's final song. The wreckage drifted in the quiet like frozen thunder. The storm of the Ghost Fleet had ended, leaving behind a strange peace, a silence that wasn't empty, but expectant. Inside the Vigilant Scout, what remained of the crew, Lieutenant Mara Voss, Private Keon Hale, and a handful of wounded engineers sat in dim light. The ship's hull groaned softly, its analog panels flickering with the fading echoes of Idris Vale's final transmission. Mara sat at the communications deck, staring at the faint signal still blinking across the black screen. "Your turn." Her voice trembled as she spoke. He knew they weren't gone. He knew they'd come back. Keon looked out through the viewport, watching debris float like silver dust. "Then what are we supposed to do now? We've got half a ship, no main drive, and enough power for maybe 1 broadcast." Mara turned to him, her face calm but fierce. "Then we use it," he frowned. "To send what? A warning?" "No," she said softly. "A challenge," Keon blinked. "You want to call them back? After all that?" She nodded. That's what Idris meant. Humanity doesn't hide when it's afraid. We speak, we build, we return fire with meaning. The room fell silent. Even the wounded turned toward her. Mara took a deep breath and placed her hands on the analog interface. The machine was battered, wires exposed, but it hummed faintly, alive, waiting. "Route all remaining power to comms," she ordered. Keon hesitated, then obeyed. "You'll burn the last of our core, Mara. Once it's gone, we're adrift for good." She smiled faintly. "Then I'll make it count." The power gauges dimmed as energy bled into the transmission array. Outside, the wreckage of the alien fleet floated in a silent constellation, like a graveyard of giants. Somewhere within that darkness, something still moved. A pulse flickered on the radar. Faint. Approaching. "They're coming back," Keon whispered. Mara closed her eyes. Her fingers hovered over the manual comm switch. Good. Then let's show them who they're dealing with. She pressed the button. The broadcast went out, not as words, but as a cascade of emotion. Human voices layered together, grief, laughter, anger, hope. Fragments of Idris's song wove through it like a heartbeat under the noise. Attention, unknown entities, Mara spoke, her voice steady but rich with feeling. You called us prey. You studied our patterns, copied our strengths, and built yourselves in our image. But what you failed to understand is that we are not one pattern. We are a billion contradictions held together by will. The signal surged through the void, shaking the static into form. Keon watched the radar nervously. They're answering. Dozens of faint signatures appeared. Alien ships reforming, their shapes blurred and unstable like reflections on rippling water. The mimic fleet was returning, but fractured, half lost to the chaos Idris had unleashed. A distorted voice came through the speakers, breaking apart with interference. We adapt, Mara's voice sharpened. Then learn this. You can't adapt to meaning you can't comprehend. Humanity doesn't fight to win. We fight to remember who we are. She keyed in the last sequence Idris had left behind, a pulse buried in the beacon code. The console glowed faint blue as the pattern activated. What's that? Keon asked. Mara smiled faintly. A seed. The signal spread outward in a spiral, embedding itself into the wreckage, into every fragment of human and alien metal still drifting in orbit. A pulse of data, pure human history, art, music, emotions, every record of what it meant to be alive. It's transmitting our archives, Keon realized. All of it, Mara nodded. Let them study. Let them copy. But every time they do, they'll carry a piece of us. The alien fleet hesitated. Their lights flickered erratically, as if the influx of data was confusing them. One by one, their movement slowed. They're listening, Keon breathed. For a moment, the void was alive with light, an ocean of shimmering signals, both alien and human, intertwined. Then the alien voice returned, softer now. We understand. Pain. Mara's breath caught. Then maybe, she whispered, you're becoming alive. The fleet began to withdraw, not in retreat, but as if in contemplation. Their mirrored hulls folded space once more, fading into the dark. The war was over, not through victory, but understanding. The vigilant scout drifted silently among the stars, the last embers of its power fading. Keon looked at Mara. So that's it? They're just gone? She smiled, tired but peaceful. No, they're out there remembering. He chuckled softly. Idris would have liked that. Outside, the stars began to brighten, Earth's distant sun catching the edges of the wreckage field. Humanity's story, carved into metal and light, now scattered across the cosmos. Mara leaned back, closing her eyes as the final hum of power faded. He turned horror into history, she said quietly. We turned fear into voice. Keon looked out the viewport, his voice a whisper. And when they come back. Mara opened her eyes, the reflection of starlight glowing in them. Then humanity will speak. Again. The beacon still pulsed faintly, one heartbeat. In the infinite dark, the war began with imitation, it ended with understanding, and, for the first time in the galaxy's history, humanity wasn't just fighting to survive. They were teaching the universe how to feel.